Hello everyone, I am Jeffrey Guyan, also known as Sun Centaur 16667 on Pottermore.
And I am Kira Rush, also known as Felicis Castle 28268 on Pottermore also.
And we are here today to talk about, well, Harry Potter. So, this whole channel will be devoted to Harry Potter. And I figured the easiest thing to do here to start this whole thing is just talk about the series as a whole, how it's affected us, how we first were introduced to it, etc., etc., etc. And a couple of things before we continue. One, there will probably be spoilers on this channel. In fact, just assume that there'll be spoilers on this channel, because it's about Harry Potter.
So we do not want any complaints saying that you have ruined the book or the movie for us.
Yes.
You haven't seen it, don't watch this.
There you go. Second thing. The questions that we are going to be answering in this video are going to be down in the doobly-doo, so if you yourself want to answer them, either in a video response or just in the comments, you can do so. So,
we invite anyone to make a video response of any of these questions if they want to.
Yes. Any of them or all of them, we leave it up to you. So, I honestly don't remember exactly when Harry Potter came out, but I know that my family has basically been reading it since the first book came out. And some of the books were actually read to us from either of our parents, and there were actually occasions when the siblings read them too. So Harry Potter was really what we grew up with. And so in many ways, Harry Potter represented my own childhood as I watched these kids grow up while I myself was growing up. So basically, that's what Harry Potter means to me. And the thing about Harry Potter is that it hasn't lost anything in the time since it first came out. I enjoy it as much now as I did when I first read them back whenever they came out. So, Harry Potter is a good series that affected my life, definitely for the better.
I learned about Harry Potter through my friends in school. When they were reading them, I was mostly reading other books or either writing or doing homework. I actually did finally get into it later into my earlier years before middle school through my best friend Lindsay. She and I started reading Harry Potter books. We actually went to a movie together. Lindsay, if you're watching this, yes, I'm talking about you. I did not read The Sorcerer's Stone first. I actually read The Chamber of Secrets first. I actually did start reading Sorcerer's Stone, but now don't yell at me, Harry Potter fans. But I fell asleep. It might have been because I was tired, or maybe it was because it was my first time reading Harry Potter. I'm not sure. Later, after I read The Chamber of Secrets, I decided I wanted to read the first one. Then I started loving it, so that's how I became a Harry Potter fan. Harry Potter is, to me, it's just a really great book series that shows that love conquers over evil, and friendship is a really big element.
The answer to this particular question didn't really come easy to me. It's interesting because in some cases I can usually pick out which character I'm like, and for whatever reason, Harry Potter just gave me a little more difficulty. But regardless, I do have an answer. I did think of one, and I am going to tell you now. The character that I'm most like is technically two, but the one that I can say I'm most like is Ron. Ron is the loyal friend. And in saying this, I'm not saying that the other characters aren't loyal friends, but Ron is the one who, even if he gets angry, even if he leaves, he'll always come back. But the second character is Luna. While I am partly like Ron, personality-wise, I see myself more like Luna. And the reason for this is just that Luna doesn't really care what other people think. Luna is an oddball, and she is perfectly okay with that. And while I can't really say that's how I was younger, I like to think that that's how I am now. So yes, I would like to think that if I were to pick a character, I would in fact pick two characters and go with both Ron and Luna.
In my case, the character I would choose would be Hermione. She also is a quiet and shy, kind of insecure girl. She doesn't really know how to exactly be who she's supposed to be. She's kind of hiding behind the books and the papers and all of the genius behind her. While she is a genius, she's also not very bright when it comes to life sometimes. She doesn't really know how to socialize. That is until she meets Ron and Harry. She also learns to overcome her fears and complications with others. As Ron is, Hermione is also a very loyal friend to Harry. She's also kind of his voice of reason. She is the reason that he makes the right decisions at times. I'm not saying he always does. She's just kind of the person who knows what's right and what's wrong and kind of tries to get everyone to go with it. But sometimes it doesn't work.
My favorite book is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. The reason this is my favorite book is actually a couple of them. First of all, I love the scenes between Dumbledore and Harry. I love the whole mentor-mentee relationship that is even more formed in this book than it has been in the past few books. And the other thing that I really like about this book is that we get to see more into Voldemort's past. So we see Voldemort as more of a person than just an evil entity, which is pretty much what he's been since the beginning of this series.
My favorite book would probably have to be Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I chose this book mostly because it doesn't revolve around Harry, Hermione, and Ron as much as most of the other books. It also revolves around other friends of Harry's. These friends include Ginny, Luna, Neville, Seamus, and all the rest of the gang. What I love most about this book is that Harry learns that he can be just as much of a leader as the professors of Hogwarts. He helps his friends to learn advanced magic so they can defend themselves from the Dark Lord and his Death Eaters. In a nutshell, this book is probably mostly my favorite because Harry learns he's not alone even though he thinks he's been alone. He learns that his friends have been there the whole time, and while that does help, it also makes him feel more secure.
My favorite Harry Potter movie would probably have to be Order of the Phoenix. This is really the movie where they finally went back to the actual characterizations of this movie that we haven't really seen since the very first movie. So we see Ron as more than just the bumbling sidekick. We see Hermione as more than just the brainy know-it-all. And I'm not gonna lie, part of this is probably because this is the only movie that Steve Kloves didn't write. This movie is also the beginning of the wonderful growth of Neville's character. As long as we just kind of remove the 6th movie and act like Neville's growth didn't happen in that, because it didn't, 5th and 7th and 8th all have great Neville moments as we watch him grow from being a very timid individual to a very decidedly not timid individual. And it's just nice to see. And I also want to give props to the writers and everyone involved that they made the longest Harry Potter book into the shortest Harry Potter movie without really taking out anything crucial. So I give props to that.
My favorite movie would have to be probably the Deathly Hallows 7 and 8, Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2. I really enjoy the performance of Ron, Hermione, and Harry so much. Notice that I put Ron first. That's because he was amazing in Deathly Hallows. Amazing. I mean, I saw Ron in a different light from that movie. And really, no offense to Jeffrey, but Ron's not really my favorite character. What I'm trying to say is, Ron was just kick-ass in that movie. Completely kick-ass. And he really did show that he was a loyal friend because he was angry because he had the Horcrux on, of course. And he was even mean to Hermione, who he really, really cares about. So when he left, yes, it broke their hearts, but he came back. It kind of strengthened the relationship between Ron and Hermione a little bit more. Because you could see, okay, it's not all about the bickering, there's also something going on, which we also realize in Half-Blood Prince. And it also showcases Harry. Harry grows up. He chooses to die for his friends. And it just moves me to know that Harry actually, he goes from being a very shy 11-year-old boy to cocky teenager to a man. He learns finally that it's his destiny, he can't get out of it, and he's happy to do it. He has no idea that he's going to make it through, but he does it, and that really gets to me. Also, McGonagall. That movie, McGonagall was just, she was more than kick-ass, but I can't really say anything else about that.
My favorite character is Luna. This is not really something I had to think about too hard, because from the moment she was introduced in book 5, I just loved the character so much. And really the reason that Luna is my favorite is something I already discussed back when I was talking about what Harry Potter character I'm like. Luna just doesn't care what other people think. She believes what she believes, she is as she is, and she doesn't let other people sway her from being who she is. Which is definitely something that I can admire. And Luna also just is as much of a loyal friend as Ron is when you get right down to it. She cares about her friends because her friends care about her.
I actually don't have a favorite character because, really, honestly, I love them all. I really do. Even Snape. A lot. I love Snape.
My favorite quote comes from the 7th book, which was also used in the 7th movie, to which I was very pleased. My favorite quote then, in case you're curious, because you are, because that's the category, is Dumbledore's quote. When he, I don't know the exact quote, word for word, but in essence, it's, well, of course this is happening in your head, Harry, but why on earth should that mean it's not real? Yeah, I mean, it's Dumbledore being wise even after death, and I just love the quote so much because it proves that just because something is happening in your head doesn't mean it's not real, because it's your imagination.
What he said.
My favorite moment that was in the books but was not used in the movie was the moment where Dumbledore met the Dursleys. This is by far one of the most amusing scenes, and really it's a scene that you wanted to see basically from the beginning of the series. And though they made you wait 6 books to see it, or 5 books, it's in the 6th book, however you want to look at that, it was definitely worth it. It was worth waiting, because that scene was just hilarious.
My favorite moment would probably have to be when Sirius and Dumbledore were watching Harry while he was sleeping, and they were talking, and Harry just felt this immediate calm, because he was with the 2 people that he cared about and trusted the most. Well, besides Ron and Hermione.
In my own humble opinion, the scariest creature in the Harry Potter universe would have to be the Ackerman Chula. I'm like Ron in more ways than one, in other words. Spiders just kind of freak me out, and I don't like the idea of having a giant spider that's bigger than you. So, that would definitely have to be my answer.
Scariest creature that I've ever encountered in Harry Potter would probably have to be the Dementors, because, well, they're just creepy. They're more than creepy, they're freaking creepy. There's no happiness in the world when they're around. It's like everything that you've ever felt that was good is just gone.
Hi everybody! You no doubt noticed the complete change of location and apparel. Last time my camera kind of died, which didn't help the whole recording things, but we are going to pick up right where we left off with what we have. The most awesome creature, in my particular opinion, is the Hippogriff. Now the reason for this is because, all in all, it is a very tough creature. It can take care of itself very easily, and it's also very noble. It introduces its, well, it doesn't really introduce itself, but it knows not to attack you if you bow to it, and then it bows back. And the only real reason it will attack you is if you provoke it.
I have to agree with Jeffrey on that. I have to say that the Hippogriff is probably my favorite too, for about the same reasons. Also that he can fly.
My favorite magical object would probably have to be the Pensieve. And the reason for this is because it allows you to store your memories inside it. And as someone who has a fairly bad memory, it would always be nice to take those particular thoughts out of my head and put them there so that they're there, so that I can look at them, so that I don't forget them.
My favorite magical object would probably have to be the Marauder's Map or the Time Turner. Why I choose these two are because the Marauder's Map, you can see whoever is around, even if everything's not what it seems. The Time Turner, because you get to go back in time. The only problem with going back in time with the Time Turner is making sure you don't get caught. Because if you get caught, there are serious consequences. As Hermione says, you cannot be seen. Marauder's Map and the Time Turner for me.
The next point brought up is our house. And, well, we're in the same house. We were sorted in Pottermore into Hufflepuff. So, Hufflepuff pride. Booyah. think I'd have to go with an owl, simply because I find them useful. You know, they can take messages for you. They're very affectionate, unless of course you piss them off for whatever reason, then they might attack you. But, you know, that's how it is with most creatures anyway. So, owl.
I think I'd have to choose the cat because I love furry animals and I like, you know, I like having something to hold on my lap and I get to pet it and love on it. I mean, I could see myself loving on an owl. That would probably be my second choice, but I have to go with the cat. Also, because I'm a witch. A black cat at that.
My favorite class would probably have to be charms. I see this class as encompassing a lot of different things because there's a variety of different charms, some of which are helpful, some of which are just fun to do, and some of which, like the cheering charms, makes you feel better, which is always, it's always a good thing. I like being cheerful, I like being cheering, I like
shiny.
Flashing comes up at the camera, I like shiny. I like Firefly. It has nothing to do with this, but shiny.
My favorite class would probably have to be Transfiguration, and maybe it's because I'm biased to Professor McGonagall, but I also like the idea of turning animals into objects, turning anything into something, which is awesome.
My least favorite class would have to be Potions. The reason for this is that everything in Potions is so definite, so defined, so specific, and you have to get it exactly right, the exactly right amount for the exactly right amount of time, spin it the exact route. It's just so definite, so specific, and I'm not good at that kind of thing.
I'd also have to go with Potions, and it's not because I don't like Professor Snape. I actually really respect Professor Snape. It's just the fact of being exact and having a short amount of time to get things done, and not very good with time handling.
This isn't that difficult either. My favorite professor is McGonagall, and I know it's your favorite too. But, I mean, what's not to love about McGonagall? Let's go ahead and be honest here. She's awesome all around. She's strict. She does not show any bias to the fact that if you're in her house, it doesn't matter. If you break the rules, she doesn't care what house you're in. So, yeah. She's
McGonagall ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Exactly. She can take care of herself. You don't want to cross McGonagall. Do you have anything to add?
Nope.
Alright. McGonagall all the way. I do want to give a shout out to Professor Sprout. She is my head of house. She is also awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She's just going up against McGonagall. And not many people can do that, really.
Sorry, Professor Sprout. We love you.
We still love you. This one is a little more difficult because I have two in a way. One is the obvious, one is Umbridge. That one's obvious. I mean, it's Umbridge. I don't think anybody likes her. But looking past Umbridge, I'd have to say my least favorite professor would have to be Binns, because he's just boring. I mean, he died and still came back to drone on about whatever he was talking about, and to me, History of Magic sounds like a class that could be interesting, but it's not handled by a good teacher. And I'm sure there's nothing wrong with Binns as a person, except that he's a ghost, but still, nothing wrong with him as a person, he's just not a good teacher. So, my number one choice, Umbridge, obviously, but if we aren't going for the obvious, I'd have to go with Binns.
I have to go with Umbridge because she's a bitch. Enough said.
Simple, to the point. So after looking through The Prisoner of Azkaban, looking at the different things, but not just there, I mean obviously it's not just a Honeydukes, but you get the idea. I'd have to go with Fizzing Whizbees, because it's a levitating candy.
I actually have no idea, because they all sound so good, but if I had to choose, I'd really like to see a chocolate frog.
I'd have to go with Animagus on this one. I would love to turn into an animal. And the other two, I mean, Death Eater, it's not a fun life, obviously. And I feel that Auror would just be a lot of strain that I'd rather not go into.
Which Harry and Ron would know.
Yes.
Since they went through it.
They went through it themselves, so it makes perfect sense that they would become an Auror. But me, personally, I'd go with an Animagus. I mean, you get to be an animal. What more do you need?
I'd also be an Animagus, and I would choose to be a dog. Preferably a yellow dog.
I would like to be a dog, too. I'd probably be more, brown, but yeah, I think it'll work out. I mean, mean, obviously I don't know exactly what my Patronus would actually be. I haven't taken a test or anything, but I like to think that my Patronus would be a dog of some kind, because I like dogs, and Ron's Patronus is a terrier, so I like to think that I'm enough like him that my Patronus would also be a dog of some kind.
My Patronus would probably have to be a wolf, because I'm one of those people who like to be alone at times, and nothing will stop me from wanting to be alone. I also am fierce when I need to be, and I'm fiercely loyal. So, kind of like a dog, but yet just a little bit different.
Now, there are 5 Beedle stories at the moment. I'm not saying she's going to write any more, because she probably won't, but you never know. And of all of them, honestly, I think the one that I would have to call my favorite is Babbity Rabbity and Her Cackling Stump. First of all, the name Babbity Rabbity is awesome, but beyond that, it's just a wonderful story about how this witch completely outsmarted everybody, and it was wonderful.
I think I'd have to go with the Tale of Three Brothers, not because it was in the movie, just because it's a haunting yet interesting story about 3 brothers, 2 of them who are dumbasses about, conjuring with death, and the third one being the smartest of them all, outwitting and finally accepting death as a friend when he's ready to die, which is kind of how our lives are. People try to cheat out death, and looks what happens. They always die.
I think probably my favorite spell would have to be one that didn't technically get a specific spell, so to speak. I mentioned it when I was talking about charms. Probably the cheering charms. I don't know what that entails exactly, because it wasn't specific, but, I'd like to think that having something to be able to cheer people up would be nice. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. I like to entertain people. I like to cheer them up. So, yeah, I'd have to go with cheering charms.
Well, Obliviate would have to be my favorite spell because it makes you forget things. And think of how useful that could be. I mean, with your enemies and with the people that you don't want to know anymore. People would probably think, why would someone want to have people forget things? Well, some people are always on the run, or, they're trying to protect the people that they love, and they know that they're going to try to keep them anyway, and they need to be out.
So that is all the questions that we have at the moment. As I mentioned at the beginning, at least I think I did, but that was a while ago, so I'm going to assume I did, and if I didn't, then you're hearing this now for the first time. These questions that we answered will be down in the doobly-doo, and you yourself can answer them if you feel so inclined, either in the comments or as a video response.
Also feel free to ask us any questions that you find worthy of Harry Potter as well.
And we will answer those, if you have any. So we will wrap this one up, and we will see you